Good morning. I first met Terrence Spivey in 2004 when he arrived to take the reins at Karamu House in Cleveland, Ohio. Karamu means a place of joyful gathering, and I cannot imagine a better soul to carry on the legacy of the Jellifs, the founders of Karamu, and of poet Langston Hughes, and now to open our joyful gathering for these few days. Karamu, the oldest African-American theater in the country, is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. And for the first 10 years, they've grown and thrived. For the past 10 years, they've grown and thrived under the joyful and nurturing direction of Terence Spivey. A shy young man, though you might not believe it now, Terry began his career at the age of 8 years old, playing the part of the turkey in the Thanksgiving pageant at his church. He was given the part because it had no lines. And although it was a brief time on stage, he does remember the auditorium, the audience, and the feel of the stage from that first experience. Working as a movie usher gave him his first opportunity to have his first brush with fame, bringing actors and directors across the velvet ropes such as Hal Prince and Roy Scheider to sold-out movies at the popular cinema not far from the restaurant Serendipity in the Fifth Avenue shopping district. He wanted to create theater in his community, and so while working as a concierge at a posh New York City hotel, he created a project to produce for colored girls in his neighborhood. Using his own funds, he obtained the use of a community stage, held auditions in Harlem, and lo and behold, over 100 people showed up to audition for the 7 parts. Ultimately, the show debuted, and with the funds collected from the show, from the box office, Terrence divided it up all in little brown envelopes and distributed it to the cast and the crew. He was determined to show his appreciation for the artists who'd made the project possible, keeping nothing for himself. Sometime after that experience, he was looking around at different theaters across the country where he could practice his own acting craft. He began a dialogue with Karamu, and they asked him to come direct the Little Tommy celebrated minstrel show for them. This led to an offer to take on the leadership of the company, a post that had been vacant for over 10 years. What I can tell you from personal experience is that working with Terry is the real deal. When I stage managed a special event for him with the fabulous Ruby Dee, I was made to feel just as important and critical to the process as that amazing, talented lady. He has a respect for artists, designers, technicians, communities, youth, and an enthusiasm that's infectious. And I am so fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with him. It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce to you my colleague and my friend, Terrence Spivey.
I'm still shy, but I'm no turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, David Grendel, Ellen Marie Kazel, the USITT team, and Duke Energy Convention Center. On behalf of the Karamu Board, President David Reynolds, and Board of Directors, Karamu Interim Director Pat Egan, and staff, and the Karamu Alumni Association, thank you for inviting me as keynote speaker at this special moment at hand. A moment being part of your 55th anniversary, and a moment on the subject of adversity and diversity. Let's applaud that. It's very important. Diversity. The meaning of diversity is a state of many different forms, types, ideas. The state of having people who are different races or have different cultures in a different group or organization. 6 years from now, in 2021, will mark the first Black Theater Troupe's 200th anniversary. That was the African Grove Theater, founded in 1821 in New York City. During that time, this Black company created controversy for attempting to stage Shakespeare's Richard III. They designed their own sets, lights, costumes, and there was a journeyman actor who broke ground with this troupe, becoming 19th century's great black Shakespearean actor. Before he made his mark with the company, he honed his craft behind the scenes at the Chatham Theater in New York City. His name was Ira Aldridge. Working behind the scenes was his ticket to continuous learning and observing from backstage. The diversity of characters portrayed by white actors on stage helped enhance him as an actor. In the mid-1920s, the African Grove faced and challenged racial barriers, and it closed down in 1826. From social to economic, there are numerous barriers that continue to haunt us all. Each barrier has in some way been a ball and chain on the leg of diversity, particularly in the arts. A study shows that there are less African Americans and other people of color in positions of set, lights, costume designs, props, misters, masters, mistresses, Mrs., and stage managers from college theater departments to community to regional theater and Broadway. How do we create more opportunities for students of color? Cross-collaborate with theaters and schools of color. Build relationships and programs with African American theater organizations, such as ADELCO, also known as the Audience Development Committee in New York City, the Black Theater Network, and the National Black Theater Festival. It has to be a passion amongst all parties involved. It's not a one-way ticket. It's not a one-shot deal. It's about unity, power, visibility, and sustainability. It's not about getting one program in within 5 years just to get funding. It's about sustainability. It's about being true to the art. It's about being true to the art form and the artist. I would like to thank USITT and TCG for their continuous consistency in programs and scholarships for all minority artists throughout the country. We must expose potential talents to role models of color in positions such as the favorite and famous set designer Felix Cochran, the Vicki L. Joneses, the Harold Crawfords, famous costumer from Hollywood, now in Cleveland, and the Richard Morrises, our tech director at Karamu House. Mr. Crawford came from over 40 years of experience in Hollywood and is a leading costumer at Karamu House now. He has costume actors from Rock Hudson in the Rockford Files, to Cuba Gooding Jr. in Men of Honor, to Karamu's The Blacks, to the Sweeney Todd at a small community theater in Cleveland. He has mentored numerous talents, including my daughter, Malika. In addition to being under his tutelage, she has also been honed for her craft under Mr. Jason Smith, who is a costumer at Weather Vane Playhouse in Akron, Ohio. Malika has went on to costuming numerous shows at Karamu House and community theaters such as True North Theater and A. Misbehaving. Richard Morris Jr. is a Karamu House favorite. He is considered a Karamu House kid. He is a wizard in every design of every field. Mr. Morris graduated from Kent State, but he started at Karamu House at the age of, he's probably out here in the audience, so I would not tell his age, but it was 1979 when he started as a kid at Karamu House. He gained a passion behind the scenes and continued his studies at Kent State, and after graduation, he came back to Karamu House and became technical director. And he has mentored numerous teens and young adults in how to appreciate the behind-the-scenes fields. In 2011, Mr. Morris became the second black designer to be honored at the National Black Theater Festival for his contributions in the theater world. The design category was implemented in 2009, and the first winner was Felix Cochran, ironically, his mentor. As Mr. Morris always stated, this type of field is a hand-me-down art form by which you learn the skill while doing on a more personal level. There was no fear of their diversity from the tech directors at Karamu before Mr. Morris attended. Today, shouldn't be any fear. I get emotional now because I'm about to talk about Karamu House. As a matter of fact, there was never a fear in diversifying in a position at Karamu House since it was founded by Rowena and Russell Jelliff. I've been at Karamu for about 12 years now, and I knew about Karamu when I was in college at Prairie View A&M, an historical black college. Taking a cue from their good friend, the Jelliffs learned from the late poet James Weldon Johnson that in which he stated, the one way for men of all races to know one another is to understand each other's culture. That's what Karamu has been doing from 1915 to now. The institution continued to flourish with the help of another famous couple, Reuben and Dorothy Silver. The founders later stepped down, and the executive director position was filled by Mr. Olcott Sanders, the father of film and stage television actor J.O. Sanders, who is also a well-respected Karamu alum. The Karamu Alum Association spreads by far Eastern Coast and West Coast, and it's being nurtured by Peter Lawson Jones, politician turned actor extraordinaire. He is the president of the Karamu Alum Association. The historical institution will be 100 years old June 2015. To this day, we have received over $100 million in capital the past year to put in new seats, new lights, new sound system. The same seats we've had since 1945 are still there. It's still standing. Karamu is still standing after 100 years. It is still standing strong now, and please let me show you why.
Is applauded and praised nationally. And I really knew that it was praised here in Cleveland, but I didn't know that the whole world loves and honors Karamu.
Hello? Yes, good morning. Good morning. Do you hear all right, sir? Yes. Thank you. Sir Evelyn, today, as a result of very many years of research and experimentation, we opened the telephonic channel.
Two young white social workers, Russell and Rowena Jelliff, founded the Neighborhood Association on East 38th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. It soon was known as the Playhouse Settlement, and later, Karamu House. It all started with an idea and an ideal. During their college years, Russell and Rowena developed a deep interest in public service. After studying the Constitution, they concluded many of the country's citizens were being denied opportunities, especially minorities, and in particular, Negroes and women, and they were determined to do something about it.
When they graduated from Oberlin College. They got married shortly thereafter, and then they went up to Chicago and met Jane Addams and the folks at the Hull House, who strengthened their belief that all people could work together under the guise of a settlement house. And their thought was all people should be able to survive through the use of their talents.
But not everyone agreed. Residents of the Roaring Third were comprised of a very diverse group, including Australians, Italians, Russians, Jews, blacks, and others. Many of these citizens were being denied a proper education, housing, jobs, recreational facilities, and cultural experiences. But the Jelliffs believed, with the use of the arts as a vehicle, human barriers could be bridged and interracial understanding achieved.
It took a certain type of person at that particular time for Negroes to even be willing to follow because of the prejudice and the discrimination that was so prevalent. But because the Jelliffs were just real Americans, and this was the reason that the Playhouse settlement was able to last.
Around the 1920s, a main activity for all the folk that came to Karamu was theater. And in 1922 was the first real production. It was a children's production of Cinderella.
Their institution was the first to do colorblind casting throughout the country, putting all races on stage. And one of their beliefs was that art was a way of healing the races. And that was way before the Civil Rights Movement. And that's something I believe in as well, but I also believe it's a way of cultivating the human spirit. Because when you get people of all races in this space, color don't exist.
Karamu was, I guess, the mother of the arts here in Cleveland and throughout the nation. That's where it started. The arts started with bringing people together. And I think that's been the common denominator, the arts.
Karamu emerged not only as a place where one could expand his creative talents, but also as a community resource where people felt they belonged. New ventures including cooking, sewing, music, clay modeling, sketching, and dance were introduced to the program.
Negroes who came from the farms in the South looking for better opportunities that the Playhouse settlement addressed, because that's the only ones that needed their services. Having an institution that was just serving the needs of the children after they were out of school, why, that was an unheard of contribution to the community at that particular time.
But it was the evolution of the theater that helped increase a growing national and international footprint. The Dumas Dramatic Club was formed and later renamed the Gilpin Players, after the noted black actor Charles Gilpin. They introduced many manuscript plays, including 6 by legendary playwright Langston Hughes.
Langston Hughes actually taught artwork here in addition to writing many of his early plays.
I knew him because he went to high school with my older brother, and that's how I had known him, from him coming by the house and being Edward's friend. They were both students at Central High School, graduated in the same class.
Karamu actually puts on, and has put on many years, Black Nativity, which originally he called What a Happy Day, and he renamed it to Black Nativity. We've actually put on a production of that. I believe it's been over 20 years.
With the focus now on the theater, many Karamu alums attained national prominence.
It was my freshman year in the 101 acting book. There was a picture of Ron O'Neill, who was Karamu alum, a photo of him doing a scene from Othello. And all I knew him for was Superfly.
Bill Cobbs, who was in Night at the Museum, is an alumni. In Hogan's Heroes, Ivan Dixon.
Ivan took advantage of everything that Karamu had to offer. Believe me, he would not have succeeded in directing, He would not have succeeded in acting, and anything connected with the theater or entertainment industry if it had not been for Karamu.
Nate Barnett, who was a late Karamu alum, he was the first black stage manager on Broadway. Robert Guillaume, Earl Billings, Beverly Todd, Vanessa Bell Calloway, Al Fan.
On Everybody Hates Chris, the little sister Amani Hakeem grew up 2 streets away from Karamu.
Actors, dancers, writers, and painters all found a place where they could practice their crafts.
We had a lot of talented African Americans come through here and create artwork.
Thank you, thank you. The Jellifs were radicals since 1915, as before the Civil Rights Movement began. Where are the radicals today? There's a fear in not understanding others' cultures. And I think in the arts, it's our chance. A mentor of mine told me art is the savior of everything that goes on in the world. Art is the savior. It's the healing process. And this is our chance. We are special people, artists, in every department, in every field. We're special. And we're very sensitive, but we're special. 50 years ago of this month, and I was hoping that we would have more people of all colors sitting here today for this to even make more sense, but it's okay. Because I must still make this statement. 50 years ago in this month, the first civil rights march, known as Bloody Sunday, took place March 7, 1965, crossing the bridge from Selma to Montgomery. The marchers were beaten and pushed back. And now, here we stand. There was a second attempt across a bridge on March 9th, 1965. Alabama law enforcement stepped aside to allow Dr. King and his followers to cross that bridge. Instead, they retreated back to Selma. And now, here we stand. Now. On March 21st, 1965, on the third attempt, people of all races, all of us, crossed that bridge. And it created a national outcry by an integration of all races, a diversified leap that epitomized the meaning of unity is power. It was a major success and enabled us all, at this moment, stand together at the Duke Energy Convention Center, together, to talk about diversity on the artistic ground to where we all stand. Thank you.